Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars, some of my favourite people, and interesting people as well. We tick all three boxes today with Krista Burgh. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Congratulations on this new album. The Hands of Man is so fascinating, and it's meaningful and purposeful. You don't waste a note, do you, really?
I think at my age you haven't got time. But actually the thing about this record is it's like a cornucopia of different emotions, different things. Unlike a recent album, Moonfleet and Other Stories, which was one hit, it's a 60-minute entire story based on a novel. This one is a selection of 15 tracks, and each one of them, as always is the case with me, I really want them to be important, to myself, and hopefully putting across an idea that other people can really latch onto and adjust and have an empathy for.
Yeah, and we're going to get into certain songs in a bit and why you wrote them and what they're about, because that is certainly fascinating, if not controversial as well. But let's review since we last spoke. I think it was 2 years ago we last spoke. Your daughter's got married. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much, yes.
How does that feel then? Have you lost a daughter or gained a son?
Well, her husband, which is a strange way of talking about him still, is a very close friend of the family. We're all mad about him, Wesley Quirk, and I've known him for 7 years now, and the best thing about Wes is we laugh a lot, and he treats my daughter with respect, which is vital, and Rosanna and he get on great. I suppose the killer moment was we had a humanist ceremony in a beautiful hotel in the centre of Dublin, just 27 people, and walking into the room with the beautiful the Canon by Pachelbel, I think it was, playing, and everybody turned around to look. I mean, my daughter is a gorgeous, she was Miss World, and she's still absolutely stunning looking, looks after herself so well. And she was there beside me, and we're walking and everybody's looking at us. I suddenly went, it was that moment. And I had to look at the ceiling because the tears were just jumping out of my eyes, because it really struck me that I was giving away my daughter, and he was waiting expectantly at the other end of this room. And afterwards, all the young ladies came up and said, "Thanks for destroying our eye makeup," because when they saw me welling up, they all went the same way. But it is a moment, and we actually had 3 weddings. Sort of one was another one that you may have seen in Hello magazine, got 7 pages. In Ibiza, the whole thing, with the whole wedding train, and that was great fun as well. So I had to make 3 speeches, and the third one was we had a June 21st big party close to our home in Ireland for 240 people. But I did point out that to the young couple, as I would say any young couple, I'd say, a wedding isn't just an excuse for a good party. It's a commitment for life, and there is a very strong reason, particularly in these days of people splitting up so simply and easily, and too easily in my opinion. My parents' generation certainly stuck it out, for better or worse, and that's what you're asked to do when you take those vows.
I was talking to somebody actually about this last night, and I wonder which way is better. Is it better now that you can walk away if you're a lady and in an unhappy relationship, or is it better like in the old days that you had no choice in a way and you had to make it work? It's a difficult sort of thing to comprehend, isn't it?
I would certainly nowadays I would go for the first of your 2 comments then, that I think if you realise that something is irreconcilably broken, and you do have the right to your own happiness, I think then it is correct that you should make that choice. However, if it's too easy, when you hear about people getting married and then they're split up within a year, I think, well, you obviously shouldn't have got married in the first place.
Right.
This is clearly a problem there. And I know that in my time, my generation was, you weren't supposed to live together with your future partner. But I think it's absolutely critically important. I would highly, highly suggest that anybody wanting to get married, live together with your partner for a year or 2 or longer, and just get to know each other, and don't go into this commitment of marriage and suddenly realize, oops, he leaves the top of the toothpaste, or else he makes horrible smells in the bathroom, whatever it happens to be. You've got to know everything there is to know about that person before you make that commitment.
The reason I bring this up, I listened to a track on your new album called The Keeper of the Keys, and it's incredibly deep. There's a line in it that says, "Tell them you won't take it anymore." And this really is a song about women and how they're treated around the world. And it is still staggering to me that in 2014, men are controlling women and allowed to get away with it in the most brutal ways. And it clearly strikes you the same, because that's what this song's about.
Absolutely. And in fact, I got a call from somebody recently who played the song to a woman in an abusive relationship, and she was in floods of tears listening to this. That very line you just quoted, "Tell them you won't take it anymore." It's really about my belief that all women, wherever in the world, have the right to a life of dignity, a life of the right to education, the right to wear what they wish to wear without being told what to do by men. And I find this personally outrageous, and I do not want to stamp on anybody's religious beliefs, because if you believe that bananas are the future of mankind, that's your problem. In your belief, you can believe that, you know. But the fact is that when it comes to these arcane writings, written incidentally by men, that these things have to be this way, you know, I've always questioned dogma. I've said to my children, always question, don't accept that's the way it's always been,
right?
Because there has to be change. You know, this is the only way there can be change. And in this particular song, "The Keeper of the Keys," I'm imagining that I'm outside a prison and I'm hearing a woman calling for help. And this woman represents millions and millions of women around the world. And I think the fact that young Malala from Pakistan, who was shot in the face for wanting to promote young girls' education, that she got the Nobel Peace Prize. Well, I mean, that speaks for itself. There is an absolute right to education, and we are in one world now. It isn't one side dark, the other side bright. It's a one world situation with modern technology. Everybody has the right to, and what have these men got to fear? I mean,
right.
What are they scared of? They're scared of losing their own power. That's what it comes down to.
I'm not an educated man, and I know very little about anything, but it still strikes me as odd that you could argue that it's okay to have a woman's face covered when you're in a relationship because you're more important than they are. It has to be wrong. It was interesting. I read an article yesterday that a production in Paris was stopped, a theatre production, because the cast wouldn't perform whilst a lady on the fly was wearing a hijab. What do you feel about that? I mean, would you stop your show? Because this is what this song's about, isn't it?
No, I wouldn't stop the show. But for example, as you may know, that I'm a very popular artist in Iran and have been for more than 25 years. The first Westerner to be granted the right to perform there. It didn't happen, although I did go there with some 3 or 4 of us to check things out. And we were told while we were there, we'd probably be able to perform to 1 million people just in the city of Tehran, such as the popularity.
Wow.
But there were apparently going to be restrictions, which I would not have accepted. For example, men could not sit with women. Again, this thing of women wearing provocative clothing, it's a bit like, as I mentioned, I think probably in an interview recently, can you imagine going to a supermarket to find all the food covered up just in case somebody gets so overwhelmed with hunger they just grab the food? Now, this is the same thing. I do not get that. I mean, the whole thing, what you just discussed about women completely covered up. If that's their choice, fair enough. But if they're told, and I read something astonishing recently, some cleric or other was saying it is divine obligation to wear this kind of stuff. And I went, what? Divine obligation? Even the word divine is a question, a word that I would question instantly. As far as I'm concerned, the smallest boy in Mumbai is as divine as the Pope. No disrespect to the Pope, but we were all utterly equal in the sight of whichever God you believe in.
I don't know how you feel. It seems to me this world is getting more crazy by the day, and I hold my head in my hands sometimes and just wonder where we're heading. It seems as if we've almost lost the plot, and we're not seeing the wood for the trees and the trees for the wood anymore.
Exactly. And Alex, that's one of the reasons why in this new album I've covered so many different areas, hopefully to provoke people into thinking a little bit. It's not all thoughtful stuff. There's a lot of cheery stuff like "There Goes My Heart Again" and so on. But I would say The Ghost of Old King Richard is historical. I'm just looking at the titles here, and The Fields of Agincourt takes us back into history. But there's one in particular, well, actually two, Through These Eyes, which is about respect for elderly people. You know, when you go into an old folks' home and you see this elderly people, they were once young, running through the trees and running through the woods and stuff like us. And with a bit of luck, we might be elderly and treated respectfully.
And I thought the candlestick was beautiful as well.
The candlestick, oh yeah, that's a good one. That's again looking at beautiful old artifacts and the skill that's gone into creating something that can be enjoyed through generations.
So then this new album is available now. It's out by Christa Burgh. It always has meaning. It always has purpose. And I thank Christa Burgh for coming on the program. The new album is The Hands of Man. Thanks for your time, Chris.
Many thanks, Alex.